and welcome to another character creation. One of the things I do in my games quite frequently is I bring in characters I've played in other games or NPCs I've had in other games and bring them into my current game. One of my favorite ones is my dwarf Irongut. He always has the same personality, even though his class and other things may change his background. But he always has the same personality of a fun-loving guy who just doesn't worry about day-to-day worrisome things and just lives life to the fullest. In this incarnation of Irongut for this game, he is actually on the Council of Seven. He is the representation for the Thorburn gods. The Norse gods, basically. He worships Odin, and he has a little bit of an interesting build here, even though it's mostly, actually, it's all cleric. Correction. I'm going to make him a 10th level character. He's going to have 1 level of fighter, but I'll just brush over that real fast. I'm going to actually add that in real quick. Alright, trainees. Now I'm going to be changing this around. So, this incarnation of Irongut is, as I said, on the Council of 7. He is 1 level of fighter, 9 levels of cleric. Pretty simple build. There's a few components of him, though, that I really do like, and I wanted to show off. His build's pretty basic. Oh, by the way, that picture over here, I've been working on drawing. I know I'm not very good yet, but I think I'm getting better. That's my party for Post Pangaea. Alright, we're going to switch over to here and take a look at this now. I have not factored his hit points in yet for the extra level of fighter, which will be his first level. I have to actually change that around on the character sheet. Takes a little bit more, because on roll 20 you have to have this here be fighter for your first level. Change that to 1, and then in the settings you do the secondary one as what you take later on. That way it has the correct stats at the beginning, and I'll have to change a few other things on there, but the basic idea is he is a cleric of knowledge, worshipping Odin. Now, in other incarnations, I've had him be storm clerics, I've had him be fighter purely, I've had him be a monk even in one. He's even been an orc once, on World of Warcraft, actually. He was a orc because, for the Horde. However, here, he is a dwarf still. Let's go over a few things that he gets real quick, and I'll explain why I wanted knowledge and the unique aspect of him that I think is cool. Alright, so I took Sage, however I modified it, because, well, first off, you can change out skills with DM's permission, and it just makes more sense for him. I want him to be a researcher. He spends a lot of time learning. It's part of his background. He actually attempted to be a wizard at first, but never was able to do more than a ritual spell with wizard, which is actually one of his ability score improvements. This one here, he gets a feat, and that's ritual caster, wizard. So he never was able to actually perfect wizard casting, but divine casting came to him very naturally. He has the level of fighter because a dwarf not in plate armor is just weird, unless they are a sea dwarf in my game, but he's not a sea dwarf, he's a hill dwarf still. I still have to actually create the race for sea dwarf. Nobody's wanted to play it yet, and they haven't really come across too many yet, so I will have to do that soon. So he gets the basic dwarven traits, 25 foot, dark vision, dwarven combat training, so he has proficiency with all those weapons. Not that it matters, because he's a fighter and has proficiency with everything. His whole proficiency, I took Brewer because, well, he lives life to the fullest. Stone cunning, so he can read a lot. I believe it gives you advantage? I'll have to look it up. Gives you advantage, I think, on history checks made for stone work. And dwarven toughness from being a hill. So he has extra hit points and a +1 wisdom. The stats, you can see are up there. That's what I did for his there, because, like I said, I like a tough dwarf. His armor class is incorrect. It would actually be at least an 18, most likely a 20 since he'd be using a shield. And this is his character leveled up to a level 9 cleric. I added the fighter in impromptly. I added in the fighter last minute, so it's not adjusted for that yet. And I have not taken the skills for fighter or cleric there. These skills here are only from class benefits and stuff. So he has a modified sage investigation instead of history because I wanted to take history in knowledge, and arcane because he did some research into that. Now a cleric, pretty normal. You can look up most of it in the player's handbook. He doesn't really rely on any one thing particularly more than another. Knowledge domain is what I went because I wanted the first two abilities there are fantastic, and the 6th level ability is going to be very useful for somebody that's on a council and is supposed to be representing an entire place. So he has Blessing of Knowledge, 1st level. He learns 2 additional languages, and he becomes proficient in 2 of the knowledge skills, and those proficiencies are doubled. They're basically automatically expertised. So he has History and Religion as his 2 expertise ones. And so that's a pretty nice bonus right there. It does definitely represent the knowledge aspect of the character very well. He gets a 2nd level Channel Divinity, Knowledge of the Ages. That one basically just lets him choose a skill or a tool set using a Channel Divinity and knows it with proficiency for 10 minutes. So he has access to every skill in the game, which is awesome for adaptability. Also, dwarves don't usually go this one, but that's a whole other thing. And then Channel Divinity, Read Thoughts. It basically lets you read someone's thought. If they fail, you still read their surface thoughts, and you get a cast suggestion when it ends, which they automatically fail. So that's awesome. He also gets Potent Spellcasting, so he gets a little bit better on his spellcasting, but not by much. The interesting thing I like about this character is I gave him the Ritual Caster for Wizard. Now, the reason I did it is for one reason only. A cleric should be trying to emulate their god in everything. And Odin has 2 ravens. Their names escape me right now, that are his eyes and ears. So, Irongut, wanting to emulate this, has summoned a raven familiar that is always with him. Trying to be more and more like Odin. It's little points like this in roleplay that I think really help define a character very well. And, well, familiar is extremely useful in a lot of things anyway. So, spells, I went with basic things. Honestly, for most of it, with Cleric especially, you can change it daily. These are just the ones that I really like, and the ones he'll probably take on a regular basis unless he needs to change things up. Some of it makes a lot of sense. Guidance. A cleric without guidance is useless. A cleric without bless or bane is useless. Like, it just, why would you even do it? Especially early levels. Later levels, I can understand not taking bless or bane. I still think it's nice to have it for situations, because you never know when you're going to get up against something that's going to require more thing. Now, I don't ever plan on having him get into combat, but you never know, so I always plan on this when I make my NPCs for the game, which Roll20 helps organize beautifully. I'll have to show you that in another video. So, as you can see, just basic things. Thaumaturgy was taken specifically. He's a council member. Sometimes he silence! Using thaumaturgy to increase the volume of his voice to really draw the attention of the people of the court. And then everything else is typically either spot on in case he gets caught in a combat, or is something to do with divination, augury, talking to his god, trying to figure out what is the right recourse of action for his daily life. So that's the basics on the casting there with his raven. The personality, traits, ideals, bonds, all that stuff is, again, how you want to do it. The way I do it, Irongut always will have there is no room for caution and life lived to the fullest. It's just who he is. It doesn't matter what background he is, that is always going to be there, because he just really loves to get in there and really just experience life. Why bother even living if you can't live it to the fullest? Then he has nothing. He likes nothing more than a good mystery, trying to solve things, understand how things work, which is great for somebody that's trying to run a area. He wants to understand how everything works. He wants to make sure everything is perfect as he can. And of course, if there's ever a murder mystery or some other thing going on, he's going to be all over it since he has access to everything. I took the path to power and self-improvement is through knowledge, because he believes firmly that knowledge, Odin, by the way, by 5th edition standards, is the god of knowledge and war. So that's why a lot of this went knowledge-based. I thought about going arcane for him, but knowledge just fits so much better with everything about where he is in the world. So he's been searching his whole life for a certain answer. You know, that's something that may come up in roleplay. I didn't get too specific about it because there may be a point someday that I need to give a plot hook to a player, and perhaps he will be talking about that, since my players are now nobles. They actually will be going to council meetings on occasion, and he may mention it in passing, something he's been searching for, and be a nice little plot hook for the players, and another way to bring a character into the world, making him feel more realistic. And the last thing, and this kind of ties back to the life lived to the fullest, is, you know, most people see something and they're terrified, like a demon or a hellhound or whatever it is, and they go running, or they prepare to fight. Irongut is not so jumpy at that. He wants to be like, ooh, what is it? And he'll sit down and start drawing the anatomy or writing notes about it, because he really is all about learning everything and believes that he will be protected by Odin's grace as he continues to push his knowledge forward. So that's the basics of him. Remember, Thorburn in my world is very much like, well, Norse, so he's basically a Viking dwarf, so even though he has, you know, a normal dwarven accent, because I like talking in that accent, even if it is stereotypical. So that's about it, guys. I just wanted to give you a quick rundown on Irongut, one of my characters that I have played many times. If you'd like to see other incarnations of Irongut, including the last one I got to play as a player character, I'd be more than happy to share that with you all. Until next time, trainees,